Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Today we're tackling a topic that honestly kind of hits home for everyone, right? I mean, who doesn't want a rock-solid happy marriage?
For sure. It's definitely something that's on a lot of people's minds.
Right. So to help us unpack all of this, we're turning to an episode called Building a Strong Marital Relationship. It's from Sarah and Frank's show, Heart to Heart, over at MedExpert TV.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. They've got some pretty good insights.
Yeah, they really do. They cover a lot of ground. And what really got me thinking was their whole idea of marriage being like a garden.
Ah, yes, the garden analogy. It's a classic for a reason.
But, let's be real for a second. Sometimes relationships feel less like a well-tended garden and more like a tangled mess, like a jungle you have to hack your way through.
Uh-huh, I feel that.
So, how did Sarah and Frank approach those less idyllic parts of marriage? Like, did they acknowledge that it's not all sunshine and roses?
They did, actually, and they actually used the garden analogy to get at those tougher moments. They talked about pruning being just as important as planting and watering.
Pruning, like cutting stuff back.
Exactly. So it's about letting go of stuff that isn't working, maybe negative communication patterns, resentments that you've been holding on to. Just like pruning helps a plant focus its energy on new growth, it can create space for healthier, stronger growth in a relationship.
I see. So you're not just ignoring the weeds, you're actually dealing with them.
Yep, exactly.
Makes sense. So tending to the garden, getting rid of those weeds, it's all part of the process. And of course, they also talked a lot about communication, which, isn't exactly a groundbreaking idea.
True, but it's kind of the foundation, isn't it?
Totally. But what I found really interesting was that they went beyond that kind of general advice about communicating more. They actually dug into specific communication techniques that couples can use. Anything in particular stand out to you?
Definitely. They had some great advice on active listening, like really going beyond just hearing what your partner is saying, but actually making sure you understand.
Right, like actually absorbing it, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Yeah, exactly. And they talked about this technique called mirroring, where you reflect back your partner's feelings.
So it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because of this.
Right. And validation, where you acknowledge their perspective even if you don't agree with it. So it's not about saying you're right, but more like, I see why you feel that way.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it probably helps to de-escalate things when, tensions are running high.
For sure. It can really help both people feel heard and understood, which is so important.
Absolutely. Makes you realize how easy it is to just talk past each other sometimes,
Oh yeah, especially in long-term relationships where you think you know everything about each other already.
Right. You get complacent. Did they talk at all about navigating different communication styles? Because I feel like that could be a big source of conflict.
They did. They suggested that couples take some time to actually figure out their individual communication styles. Like, is one person super direct while the other one's more subtle or avoids conflict? Figuring that out can help prevent a lot of misunderstandings down the road.
It's like learning each other's language almost.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Okay, so we've got communication down, the soil and pruning of our relationship garden, so to speak.
I like where you're going with this.
But, all gardens need a little sunshine, right?
Of course.
To keep things blooming. So Sarah and Frank also talk a lot about daily acts of love. And to be honest, I'm always a little bit skeptical of that kind of advice. Do those small gestures really have a long-term impact?
Well, that's what they argue, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. It's not about grand romantic gestures, but about consistently showing your partner that they're valued and appreciated.
Okay, so what kind of things are we talking about?
It could be anything, really, like making them a cup of coffee in the morning or sending a quick text to say, I love you. Little things that show you're thinking about them.
So those little things add up.
Exactly. They called it making deposits in the emotional bank account of the relationship. And just like with a real bank account, those deposits build up over time.
I like that, emotional bank account. So it's not about one big deposit, it's about consistently putting something in.
Precisely. And it creates a sense of security and connection.
It actually reminds me of that study about the magic ratio for successful relationships. The one?
Oh yeah, where they found that for every negative interaction, you need multiple positive interactions to keep things balanced.
Exactly. And those daily acts of love are like little boosts of positivity, right?
They are. They really help to strengthen the foundation of the relationship.
And speaking of foundation, Sarah and Frank talked a lot about trust.
The cornerstone of any strong relationship, right?
Absolutely. They compared it to the foundation of a house.
Yeah.
But, they went beyond just saying, be honest. What were some of their insights on building and maintaining trust?
Well, they talked about the role of vulnerability, which I thought was really insightful.
Vulnerability, what do you mean by that?
It's about allowing yourself to be seen and known by your partner, flaws and all. And that can feel really risky, right?
For sure, it's not always easy to let your guard down.
But it's essential for building deep trust. And they also talked about the importance of repair attempts.
So, like, if there's been a breach of trust, how you come back from that.
Exactly. It's not about sweeping things under the rug. They said it's about acknowledging the hurt, making a genuine apology, and then consistently making an effort to rebuild that trust.
And I'm guessing that takes time and patience.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a quick fix. But it's possible to rebuild trust if both partners are committed to it.
So, okay, we've got communication, we've got love, we've got trust. But even in the most solid relationships, disagreements are bound to happen, right?
Of course, it's inevitable.
So how did Sarah and Frank approach the whole idea of conflict resolution? Like, is there a right way to argue?
They had this concept they called fair fighting, which sounds a little strange, but actually makes a lot of sense.
Fair fighting. Tell me more.
Basically, it's about making sure that even when you're disagreeing, you're still communicating respectfully.
Okay, that makes sense. So like no yelling or name calling.
Exactly. It's about listening to understand your partner's perspective, not just trying to win the argument.
And probably trying to stay calm, even if you're feeling really heated.
Oh, definitely. They recommended using I statements to express your feelings and needs, avoiding blaming language, and taking breaks if things get too intense.
That's so important, that taking a break thing. I know some couples who swear by going to bed angry. Like, that's their strategy.
Ooh, I don't think I'd recommend that.
Me neither. It's like, how do you even sleep?
Right, and it doesn't really solve anything. It's better to address the conflict constructively.
Absolutely. It's like you're a team. You got to figure it out together.
Exactly. And actually, they said that working through conflict in a healthy way can actually strengthen the relationship in the long run.
Because you're learning how to handle disagreements, which are going to come up no matter what.
Right. It's all about learning to navigate those differences respectfully and collaboratively.
Okay, and last but not least, we can't forget about forgiveness.
A big one, for sure.
Sarah and Frank emphasize how crucial it is. But what really resonated with me was their perspective on moving forward after you've forgiven someone. What did they have to say about that?
They talked about the importance of letting go of the past.
Which is often easier said than done.
It is. It doesn't mean you forget what happened, but you make a conscious choice to focus on the present and the future of the relationship.
So you're not letting those past hurts define the relationship.
Right. Holding on to resentment just breeds negativity and prevents you from moving forward.
Wow, so much to think about from just one episode.
I know, they packed a lot in.
So to recap, we've got open communication, those little daily acts of love, building trust through vulnerability, the art of fair fighting, and the transformative power of forgiveness.
And all of these things work together, right? They all contribute to building a strong and fulfilling relationship.
It's a journey.
It is. And it takes effort and intentionality from both partners.
Absolutely. Well, I think you've given us all a lot to ponder today. But before we wrap up, here's a final thought for everyone listening. Could these principles apply beyond just romantic relationships?
That's a really interesting question.
Could you use them to improve your friendships, your family dynamics, even your work relationships?
I think it's definitely worth exploring. At their core, the principles of communication, trust, respect, and forgiveness are valuable in any relationship.
Absolutely. So much to think about. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.